We're going to hear from Chris on family values. Okay, get some little advice first. So let's have a big applaud for Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I mean, when Revit came out with the term families, who cannot have fun with this term as you go through it, right? So this presentation tries to focus on some little more practical applications relative to family formulas and how they can be used when creating families. How many folks have created families before? Awesome. How many people have used formulas in their family? Good. So this might not be new to you, but the intent is to leverage the families and the values and the formulas in such a way that at the end user is using a much better family, and they've got a lot more choices on hand. They can't load it in, go, oh wait, this isn't right, I got to do this, got to do that, start over, and all of a sudden you end up with a myriad of little variations floating around. So again, just a couple quick examples here of what we're doing. At Quinn Evans, this would be our typical sheet title block. And this is the family view of that same file. There's a lot of stuff packed in here, but I want to focus on a couple things. One is the title or the address portion up in the top right-hand corner. Within the project, this is what the user would see. When they click on the title block and they pull up the type properties under identity data, they see office with the 0, but there's 5 grayed out sections below it for the offices that we have in the organization. This is the same view within the family, and those blocks of text are individual addresses. And what I did here was each address becomes a group of 2 text boxes, the address and then the phone number below it. Each text box then gets a yes/no parameter that assigns it to one of the offices. In this case, it would be DC, Detroit, Ann Arbor, so on and so forth. The other value that I added was the term office at the top, and that parameter is set to an integer, which then would correspond to the address below. So the user goes in and he hits 3 for Ann Arbor, and the Ann Arbor address pops up. And that works very well with the title block throughout. But again, in my family, as you can see here, I've got cover sheet information that's plugged into it as well. So in this case, I'm going to focus on the text that's over on the far right, or sorry, on the left, where we're all blocked up like that. In this case, the value for the address is referred to as the same nomenclature, 01 DC cover, 02 or Detroit cover, but this time it's got cover in it. And this is how the project looks, and you can see there's 3 and 3, and everything is still grayed out. Within the family, this is the way it looks. Again, not that much different except for the formula portion of it. And in this case, I need to tell it, let me back up a slide. You'll see within the project, up at the very top, it says cover sheet, which is checked. So within the family, the parameter or the formula now says cover sheet, if cover sheet, well, it doesn't say if, it says and cover sheet, and then office cover equals the integer. You will also notice that up at the under the term office cover, there's a 3, but it also says office under the formula. So I'm repeating the value that's coming from office right into the value for the cover sheet portion. The end result is that when the user clicks 3 or types in 3 for the office, he gets the title block and the cover sheet address automatically dropped into place without any issues. Another example of how all of this works together is some cases we're going to need a stamp. In this case we have 2, a liability, waiver of liability, and a drawing record, and you can see those in red. And this is what the project view looks like. Again, within the family you can see the big red blocks over in the title block side. And here the values within the project, there's a checkbox that says turn the stamp on. And then there, right below it, says liability stamp with the checkbox. But you also see the 2 gray lines below it, which is record doc stamp and show liability. So within the family, this is the way it looks. I've got 2 stamps, and in this case they're annotation families. It was just a little easier to generate them as an annotation family and drop it into the title block. And then what I've got is the parameter that says turn the stamp on or off, and then the 2, basically what's driving it are the 2 formulas right below it, which is stamp on and not liability stamp. The one right below it, stamps on, liability stamp. So here the idea is that once stamp is turned on, we're then telling it to either show the liability stamp or show the record document stamp. If the stamp box is checked off, then neither of those appear. And this is the way it would look for the user if he turns on stamps and says, I don't want the liability stamp. By default, it automatically gives you the record drawing because it's not liability stamp, therefore turn it on. Another example of where I used a lot of formulas was in toilet partitions. This one took quite a while to build, but there was a layering process that went on here, and hopefully you'll see parts of it as we go through this. In this third example here, we're basically going to be talking about a couple different parameters. We've got the ability to do a floor-mounted toilet or a wall-mounted toilet, and this is what the user is seeing inside the project when he's placed it on there. So here is the floor version, and here is the wall version. And you notice that all they had to do was uncheck one of them. The other one automatically came on. So this is what the family looks like in plan form. And as you can see there, we've got a pretty simple formula, not floor toilet. So I get one or the other by default no matter what. And that's been, we've had some QC projects where somebody's checked everything on and there's a nasty looking mess in the middle because all of a sudden like, oh, I forgot to turn all those others off. Or they turn everything off and not realize that they needed to show something. So here, again, it was set up so that you were forced to show one or the other. You didn't have a choice. The other piece that took a little bit of time was showing within families we can do coarse, medium, and fine. And for the toilet partition, we set it up so that at a coarse level you can see on the left it's just basic line work. The middle view is showing what it looks like at medium and fine, and then the one on the far right is what it looks like with fine. And in this case, all we've done is turned on the toilet accessories. In this case, the paper towel dispenser, toilet paper dispenser. And by the way, in this particular family, in the toilet accessory family, the dispensers and all the accessories are taggable. So again, the idea here is that the user can drop the toilet partition in, get it configured right, lay it all out, depending on its scale at an overall floor plan scale. We don't have a bunch of graphics changing things, or we haven't written a lot of filters to filter out things. And then at the fine level, which might be at quarter scale or half scale, I can start to see and tag my toilet accessories. Another example of being able to use various scales is the fire extinguisher cabinet. In this example, I completely changed the graphic for the coarse version, which is on the left. So this would work great at a 16th scale, where I still need to see where somebody has placed those. They're showing up on my life safety plan with this graphic. And then for coarse and fine, they're pretty much the same. The difference between these two, of course, is fire extinguisher 1 is a recessed version, and fire extinguisher 2 is a surface mounted. So in this case, while I didn't show it, they are instance parameters to let the user decide if it should be surface mounted or recessed. If it is a surface mounted one at coarse scale, it would say FEC2. And I know I went pretty quick with some of these, but here are some formulas for good family values. Definitely leveraging the not parameter. In fact, it came up today. We were discussing something, and a user was trying to do something with the door, and she wanted it as an instance parameter, but was still trying to make duplicate types for the various conditions, and we realized as an instance parameter, we could use the not variable. The parameter equals integer would be the office equals 3, 4, 5, that sort of thing. That and the next two, or the next one below it, are definitely ones that allow you to generate more options besides A or B when creating a family. And then the last one, of course, is trying to leverage coarse, medium, and fine in the line work so that we're not doing a lot of filter overrides just to make something look good at the right scale. So I hope all that made sense, and I know it went pretty quick, but if you got questions, let me know.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, when it comes to the toilet, I was seeing that, so you're using visibility parameters for the same, it's either wall mounted or floor mounted, and then stacked on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
You find those more effectively type parameters that says choose between the two, and they're both loaded into the same medium.
Actually, that's a good point. So we actually do change it as a type parameter. I didn't show it as such, but you will see here at the very top it says floor mounted. And even though I have floor mounted unchecked, that was more for purposes of the presentation. So the user would get, that's a good point, the user is going to get a floor mounted, here it is, or it's going to be a wall mounted, here is the family. The toilet doesn't need to be an instance parameter every time they drop a toilet in and have to make a choice.
Do you see a substantial advantage to using the number in your title block versus just giving users the checkboxes and not forcing them to know which number is associated with which office?
That's a good point. I think that the advantage to the numbering system in this case is that they still have to make one choice. They can't accidentally turn them all off or turn them all on. I'm still making them choose one, and that's the one I want to see. I've got some users that are click happy, so they're always clicking the mouse as they're moving it. So that's one reason. And I think that's That actually allows it to be expanded a lot quicker without having to go back in and add a bunch of other changes. I mean, I can see this applying to, you might drastically change, that's not height, width, and depth of an object, but it might be adding on other pieces. And so I want to be able to say, turn on this piece, turn off that piece, and I get a lot of different choices that way. So, yes, sir.
Looking at your parameters, where you have the office parameter and the office cover parameter, is there an instance where you have one office and a different office cover? Or, I mean, I was just wondering why you wouldn't have the cover being driven by the office number.
Because they are two different, they're two different type parameters. I have a type family that's cover and a type family that's sheet. And because of that, I can't, I need to be able to say, if the cover is turned on, then show this title block. I didn't actually try it when I built it to see if, to apply it back to, say, 1 DC or 2 Detroit or Ann Arbor, that sort of thing. But I did, yeah, so it's still a work in progress. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I really do. I've worked in places where we had 3 or 4 check boxes, and yeah, we had experience where
Office under the Office cover version and realizing that I could change it once and it picked up both of them. So again, I'm not having the mistake of the cover sheet gives a different address than the title block on all the other sheets. So they're still the same set of information and the user only has to hit it once. And in all of these examples, what I'm trying to do is find ways to improve the information that the user has access to relative to a family. Like that toilet partition, again, that's used heavily. It did take a while to build, but once people understood how it worked, they love it. You know, we can generate a bathroom a lot quicker with that one particular piece. There are lots of other examples where folks have gone in and tried to do a detail annotation or use groups to embellish the wall sections. When you can point them to a family and say, you spend 10 minutes here and it will be repaid for you every time you touch that particular portion in every wall section all the way down.
It's also easier because now you only have one family to update, right? Like I have a cover page and a sheet page, right? So if the information changes, I have to change it in both places. I can't
Right.
believe I've never thought of this.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot in this. What I didn't talk about yet was vicinity maps, project data. Those are obviously just values that are yes, no, they're going to turn on as part of the cover sheet. What broke when I brought it into 2019 was drawing index. The idea with drawing index is that it actually slides. The right portion of that line is anchored. The left portion slides left or right. So if you are automatically generating, if you've got a small set and you can get all your drawing list on the cover sheet, that's what we would prefer. But it can fill up 2 columns, it can fill up 8 columns. And so the user then slides left or right in terms of how much room he wants to do to be able to use that all the way through.
All right. Any other questions?
Have you experimented with and had any successes or failures with trying to associate that office number with a project local parameter to try and get, like, make sure you don't have Detroit checked on one sheet, Richmond checked on another, or anything like that?
I have not. But again, those are type parameters, not necessarily instance parameters. So within the whole set, within that file, all of those sheets are done. I can see where we've got a couple projects where we have multiple files. multiple Revit files that are generating sheets for a bigger compiled set. So we're having to make sure that that information is crossing projects.
All right, anything else? Any more questions? All right, well, thank you very much for presenting, for putting together.